Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Midweek Bible Study for the East Allen County Church of Christ. We're glad to have you with us. If you haven't come by to see us or visit us, please do so. We'd be glad to see you and glad to meet you. How grateful are we for receiving help? I'm not sure about you, but I was raised to try to do as many things for yourself as you could do. And if we're not careful, we can develop an attitude that says, well, I just need to do everything on my own, no matter how tough, no matter how arduous, how difficult. I need to just do it myself and get it done. Otherwise, you have to bother people. There are times in life, though, when we realize we have to let down our pride and we have to allow people to help us. If you've ever had an extended stay, and I hope you haven't, but it's possible that you have, in the hospital, one of the things that you realize is there's a whole team of people, nurses and doctors and all kinds of good folks, who come along to help you to get better. We need them. I can't imagine what would happen in this day and age if we didn't have hospitals and doctors and all kinds of medical professionals to help us through our physical and medical difficulties. We realize that once you're a patient, if you've been a patient, what you realize is that you've got to allow these people to do their job. And it's sometimes they're going to poke you, prod you, do all kinds of things that are going to make you uncomfortable on the one hand. On the other, though, you know that the end result should be, what you're working toward, is that you're getting better. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is the fact that it's difficult for us to accept help. And the most deadly and dangerous way that we handle ourselves and conduct ourselves philosophically through this process is we don't accept help when we need it spiritually. And we need to do that. We need to be grateful for the help we receive from individuals. There are times, though, when the help we receive from a spiritual standpoint is not exactly the most soothing or salving thing. Sometimes it's painful. I was in a hospital one time on a Sunday evening with a lady who had unfortunately fallen. She was at her home and she was walking down some stairs and she fell and broke her leg. And so her son, I was there with her and her son, and we were in her room talking, and they had given her some pain relievers, and they were sort of working, not very well, but the doctors in just a few seconds were going to come in and they were going to set her leg. I'd never been in the presence of that process before, but when the doctors came in, they said, because her son was there with me, they asked me if I'd take him out in the hallway, which I did. And we walked out in the hallway, and this good, godly woman who I had never heard say anything. She didn't say anything to be ashamed of or that she'd have to repent of, but it was obviously very painful when they set her leg. I mean, it was excruciating pain, so much so that her son wanted to rush back in the room and help her, as if anything he could do would actually help her. She had to get her leg set. If it wasn't set properly, it wouldn't heal properly. If it didn't heal properly, she was going to have problems with it for the rest of her life. So that very painful part of her healing process had to take place the way that it did. And as grueling as it is for people who love folks to see someone going through that, you have to let that happen. She had to let that happen. Spiritually speaking, there are times when we have to get our souls set, if you will, the way that this wonderful lady had to get her leg set so that it would heal properly. And God tells us, He makes no bones about it. He lets us know that we absolutely sometimes have to go through some pain to get to the point that we need to be spiritually for Him. And I just want to share something with you. In Proverbs 27, verses 5 and 6, better is open rebuke than hidden love. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, profuse are the kisses of an enemy. So what is that proverb talking about? That people who love us at times may find it necessary to say things to us or direct us in ways that we don't like, that are uncomfortable to. Don't talk to me that. You don't say that about me. That's personal. Well, your spiritual life is very personal. And if you have friends who love you, that's personal too. Those are personal relationships. And if somebody really does care about you, why would they let you do harm to yourself when they know that there is a way to help you that you won't do harm to yourself? And in fact, you'll better yourself, spiritually speaking. There are people in life, many of whom have helped us spiritually. And I don't know if all of these categories are in your life personally, but some of them are, and many of them possibly. In Hebrews 12, verses 9 to 11, furthermore, we had earthly fathers to discipline us, and we respected them. Shall we not much rather be subject to the Father of spirits and live? For they disciplined us for a short time, as seemed best to them. But he disciplines us for our good, so that we may share his holiness. All discipline for the moment seems not to be joyful, but sorrowful. Yet to those who have been trained by it, afterwards it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness. God is working with us. First of all, we may have parents in our life who try to help us. And if you have been a child, we all have been, presumably, then you understand there were things your parents wanted you to do, had you do, made you do that you didn't want to do. Maybe you had to eat those vegetables. I don't like those vegetables. I'd rather just live on dessert. I'll never forget, I had a babysitter one time, and I say a babysitter, but anyway, it was a lady that was there. She was making lunch for me, and she was very formal in the way that, so she brought out the dessert and set it on the table. I'm about, 5 years old, and there was no other food on the table. There were plates and things like that. I mean, it was very nice. It was a very nice environment. It wasn't where I lived, but it was in someone's home I was in. And I saw this dessert. And nobody said anything to me about the dessert. I thought I was going to eat, and that's what I was getting when she was making lunch. But the dessert, I don't know if there's a formal procedure for when you place dessert down. But if you put it in front of 5-year-old Lonnie, I can pretty much tell you about what's going to happen to that dessert, or at least what's going to attempt to be happening. So while she's preparing the rest of lunch, I looked at that dessert and I thought, well, it's already here. I'll just start with that. So I got one spoonful of that dessert out, and she ran out of that kitchen like I was robbing a Brinks truck. And no, you don't eat your dessert yet, and I thought to myself, well, it was worth a try. I got one bite, I ate the rest of my lunch, then I had dessert, and everything was fine. But sometimes people need to tell us things. If I wanted to live on dessert, that would not be a healthy thing. No, not for anybody. And if we don't eat vegetables, there are vitamins and minerals that we gain from that part of our diet that we would go without, and probably in some way, shape, or fashion, our health would be at risk for not attending to a more balanced diet. So our parents tell us things. When they tell us, you got to make your bed, you gotta go to school. You have to, and they put these parameters on us. They put these requirements on us, and maybe we didn't like it. And if you're like myself, if you've been both, you've been a child and a parent, you understand how difficult it is to try to get a child to do what it is they don't want to do, and how. But if it's important, you have to do that. Also, there are others who help us. In Hebrews 13, verses 7 and also 17, the Hebrew writer says this: remember those who led you, who spoke the word of God to you, and considering the result of their conduct, imitate their faith. Verse 17 says, obey your leaders, submit to them, for they keep watch over your souls as those who will give an account. Let them do this with joy and not with grief, for this would be unprofitable for you. I don't know if you realize this or not, but elders are the only people in the Bible who will actually answer for other people. In other words, when I stand before God, He's going to want to know, did Lonnie the preacher preach the truth? Did he as a Christian man live the truth? Did he as a father act as he should have as a Christian father and a Christian husband, and so on? Elders, however, they're going to answer for the conduct of other people. Now, they may not answer for their sins, but they're going to answer for how they led those people. I'm going to answer for what I teach. They're going to answer for how they lead, and I will too, for that matter. But elders are in a particular position, and so several times in Scripture, people are encouraged to honor those who lead them, namely their elders. And they're talking about elders in the church at this point. Our elders are special people. And I say this about East Allen, and I can say this about the places I've worked. Elders are by and large people who have the best interest of the church in mind. They should. They're not perfect, and occasionally you will find an elder who is probably not fit for the job, should have never become an elder. But that's very rare. I would just say that when we deal with our elders, and they're dealing with us biblically, please understand they have an authority and a responsibility to look over us. And so if they're doing their job, we need to make their job as easy as it can be for them to do. And so we should respect and appreciate what they're trying to do for us. In Acts 20, verses 17 to 20, from Miletus he sent to Ephesus and called to him the elders of the church. And when they had come to him, he said to them, he being Paul, of course, you yourselves know from the first day that I set foot in Asia, how I was with you the whole time, serving the Lord with all humility and with tears and with trials, which came upon me through the plots of the Jews, how I did not shrink from declaring to you anything that was profitable and teaching you publicly and from house to house. Paul was simply describing to those at Ephesus as he was about to leave that he did his job, and he did it all the time, and he preached it, and what he's saying to them is, you know that I did this. You know that I presented you the truth of the gospel. You know that I gave this to you freely. You know that I wasn't a con man. Unfortunately, we live in a world where there are a lot of con men, biblical con men, who find themselves wanting to make money off of the cross. They should be ashamed of themselves, and they will pay a price one day when they stand before God, because those con men, those people ripping other folks off, those shallow, hollow, superficial people, and I'm talking about preachers at this point. I'm talking about people that say they're sharing the gospel, really what they want is your money. If that's what's going on, then I'm going to tell you, God's going to know that when he sees them, and he will make that right. But having said that, that's not the case, I believe, for most preachers. I've known preachers that preach in very small congregations in very obscure areas, and they are wonderful. They do their job very well. They love people. They attend to people. They teach them spiritually, and I'm sure that as a father would look at a child, the Lord would say of those men doing that, those are my boys. Those are good guys. I love them. They're doing exactly what I want them to be doing. And if they may not be on TV, they may not be in the newspaper, they may not even be known by people too much around them. They're just busy serving the Lord and loving people and teaching the gospel and doing the best they can do. And if that's what they're doing, we should be grateful. It could be that at some point somebody like this shared the gospel with you. Maybe some preacher somewhere did this for you. And as preachers, we ought to share the gospel. We have an interesting work requirement, but the truth of the matter is that for us, preaching the gospel is what we need to be doing. And I hope that maybe a preacher shared the gospel with you. It could have been someone else. Preachers aren't the only ones who should be sharing the gospel, but if a preacher shared the gospel with you, I hope that you'll be grateful and appreciative of that person, if that's who it was. And it was probably more than one person, is my guess. But it could have been just a single preacher who shared the gospel with you. In that case, certainly we're appreciative of them. In Proverbs 27, verses 5 and 6, better is open rebuke than love that is concealed. Remember, we read that. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but deceitful are the kisses of an enemy. Friends who help us see and overcome our faults are an asset to us. They are people who love us enough to risk us being upset with them, possibly losing a friendship maybe, but they know something has to be said or something needs to be changed in our lives. And so they come to us and they tell us, as lovingly perhaps, maybe harshly, but if it's truthful, maybe we ought to learn to accept it for the way that it's given and not worry so much about my feelings in the process, or really it's my pride. If I have something that needs to be fixed and someone criticizes me over that, maybe I need to get my pride out of the way and fix whatever it is that needs to be fixed, if something really needs to be fixed. Sometimes we let our pride tell us that, well, that's nobody's business. It's all mine. It's all this. And so we get upset when what we really ought to be doing is thanking people for caring enough about us to help us. Now, I will say this. that can be overdone. There are people who will tell you, I'm just saying this because I care about you, and they're nothing but busybodies, gossips. They don't really care about you. They're just there to bother you. They're there to make themselves feel better by making you look bad, if they can do that. That's a different thing. But in a very genuine and sincere fashion, it is possible that friends come to us and tell us things, and if they're really our friends, I believe that if you give them the benefit of the doubt, that's probably where they're coming from. Are they coming from a place of help and aid to you, of uplifting you, encouraging you, building you up? If that's the case, then take it for what it is, and don't get mad at them for loving you enough to try to help you. I could go on all night, and I won't, but I just want to encourage you to be grateful for those people in your life who encourage you in the Lord, who try to lift you up to become stronger and to do the things in your life that will make you stronger. So I just want to encourage you to be prayerful this week, and certainly to be grateful and thankful for those individuals who love us enough, no matter what their position, either in the church, in the world, or in our lives, to try to help us. And I pray that our hearts will be in a place that will accept that help readily, and that the practical application of that help will lead us to be stronger in the end. God has blessed us with many good people around us, and I hope that regardless of the bad people you may realize are there, that you won't forget or neglect the wonderful people who are there. Thank them and love them, appreciate them, love everybody, but really appreciate those people who you know are really just trying to help you and to lift you up. I hope this has been helpful to you this week. I hope that you'll think about people that you can be grateful for, and that maybe you'll express that gratitude, and you'll thank them for doing the job they do on behalf of the Lord in your life. Thank you for spending time with us, and I hope we'll see you next week.